Hello guys, Art-Teeves here. This is the second video of my series that covers the process of texturing the Stylized Gnome House model in Substance Painter. Let's get started. My model has around 13k polygons. As I mentioned in my previous video, further optimization could reduce the polygon count to approximately 7 to 9k. The model is made as a single unified object, which is unwrapped to a 4K Resi UV map, primarily for demo purposes. Actually, 2K is enough for it. Also, if you want to actually stick to a 4K Resi, setting your UV padding to 32 will be a great idea. I start off by baking my model. Since we aren't getting any high poly data on our low poly model, most of the settings are irrelevant to us. I use the same routine as always. I set the highest possible amount of rays on all tabs, disable the ID section, and set my subsampling to 16. I didn't record the process of unwrapping UVs this time. The model has some trees, so both my topology and unwrapping aren't ideal, but they still work. Obviously, if you aren't modeling for some indie game and need a flawless workflow, it would be better for you to stick to quad-only workflow and perform a manual retopology at some point. The video is mostly unedited, however, I've cut out some repetitive moments where I play around with colors, because I've spent a lot of time on it and didn't use some kind of a reference image or a preset palette, which I regret greatly. Also, I won't be narrating the entire thing, so I'll leave you guys at some point. Just like in my other videos, I start off by creating some kind of a color blockout. I use different masked folders to give some details of my house some basic fill layers, and only bring colors together when I see most of my model. I've avoided all preset materials in this video, with the sole exception of the door hinges. Instead, I'll be building a stylized material from scratch using multiple fill layers with grunge textures, focusing heavily on color layers. I experiment with colors and grunge settings till I'm satisfied with the overall structure. As I've told previously, we can adjust their colors at any time. I use a combination of fill layers, blur, and slope blur filters to build a stylized effect that evokes the look of hand-painted acrylics. We will need to tweak the blur intensity, the slope intensity, and especially the slope divider, which acts like a brush size control. Otherwise, you can simply sample colors from a preferred image using a color picker. Don't forget to mess around with those layer blending modes and transparency levels, it really helps things blend together. Also, I like to switch some of my grunges like wood grain to triplanar projection. The material we create here works best for stylized characters or models rich in ribs, edges and cavities, as our highlighting methods effectively accentuate these details. The next two fill layers utilize inverted fills masked with ambient occlusion and thickness maps. While typically used for character models to add depths and highlights, this technique also works effectively for our house. Adding blur slopes to all of these layers gives them a great cartoony look. You can also play around with their height data, imitating some chips or rust damage. For edge highlighting, I utilize the metal edge wear generator on a dedicated fill layer. Subsequently, the cavity data layer is configured using a pre-existing curvature map applied to a grayscale fill of another fill layer. Wood cracks are generated with the help of the height data layer that has its height reduced and the grunge map 005 applied to it. I also mask it with a blur slope filter to remove most realism from it and make it a bit more stylized. Following the crack application, I add a 3D linear gradient to the model, applying a blur slope to that layer. I enhance the wood layer with additional cracks and veins by extracting the appropriate fill layer from a preset wood smart material. Disregard the initial wooden texture on the house's organic frames. I later modified it to achieve an organic appearance, removing the previously applied wood veins. In order to create various frames and borders, I simply duplicate my general material folder and use its altered version to color frames and some other elements of the house. At this point you can also play around with your color settings, grunge settings, and roughness settings of various paint layers. To streamline the video, I've removed the section where I painted the window and door frames. They were using the same wool material which underwent revisions later in the process, so the core techniques remain covered. Make sure to alter your environment settings and light maps now and then to see how your model performs in different conditions. Rotating the environment is also a great idea. Remember to apply some general material to the base of your model, so you don't miss any parts when masking your material folders and using the polygon fill tool. After exploring different anisotropy methods and hand painting striping for the shells, I determined that a blur slope technique, replicating acrylic painting, provided the best outcome. We now focus on adding intricate color variations and adjusting the roughness values. By employing triplanar projections and various generators, we avoid the need to mask UV seams. I enable emissive channels in the texture set settings. To allow for optional light deactivation in the game engine, ensure your windows have non-emissive textures. I then add emission channel to all window-related maps. Bright emission is applied to glowing elements, while dark emission is used for dust and dirt layers to occlude the bright light from those surfaces. And this is it. I'll stop narrating at this point and leave you to watch the rest of the video. Thanks for watching, guys. If my videos are of use to you, be my guest and subscribe to my channel for more stylized content. And most importantly, have a great day.